let's talk about AI.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, but I'm glad I got the background now. I think that gave me
Yeah,
a lot of good context. So yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
I think yeah, let's come back to what so you had asked a question, I think about AI and education in the global minded session. And I think I'm curious just if you could share a couple sentences about when you think about the conversation around AI, what is most exciting and most concerning to you?
There's a lot that's exciting in terms of
Mm,
how much less you might manually have to do after doing more for a little bit of time. Let me
yeah,
explain. So you have
yeah.
to learn how to use AI. Like me as a person, I had to learn how to use ChatGPT, and there's 100 billion other ones now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for a little bit of time, you have to learn how to use it, and that requires more energy until eventually the AI can actually do what you want it to do for you. That could be a lot or a little depending on the software. So there's new AIs out there like Agent GPT, for example. Have you heard of it?
Um, I don't know if I have. I've heard of a lot of them, but they all honestly they're all blurring together in my head now.
Yeah. So with ChatGPT, right, you have to put in a prompt and then it gives you an answer.
Hmm.
But you can't really tell it to go and do an extensive project that requires multiple steps without you having to
Yeah,
tell it more information. With
definitely.
this one, with this agent GPT, you could program it to pretty much be like your own administrative assistant.
So it can be kind of so it's executing tasks, not just yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I
It,
actually I'm currently onboarding myself to a project management tool that does a similar, it's like an AI powered, like it'll actually go execute the things.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me to have to learn how to use this one, so I don't have an
Hmm.
administrative assistant, right? I want one
Hmm.
for sure. It would make my life
Hmm.
a lot easier if, for example, I know for this specific email chain, it's going to end in me having to set up a meeting with somebody. That's normally how a lot like this one, right? Imagine if the AI could look through my calendar and I gave it parameters like, okay, if
Yeah.
it's this type of meeting, look through these days, this is the best way to answer. And it could already draft those emails for me.
Hmm.
That would make my life a lot easier. And then I could just edit it.
Absolutely.
But for
Yeah.
me to train it to do all of that is going to require so much work from me up front so that it can
Hmm.
actually execute. So I think that's like a nuanced thing that a lot of,
Yeah.
even no matter what field you're in, especially in education, if we look at it from the perspective of the student using the software, like
Hmm.
if a student really wants to cheat in a class, because academically that's probably going to be the biggest concern.
Yeah.
If they can get away with it, they know how to use that software really well.
Mm.
You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
they really learned how to ask good questions, right? Because that's all the software is like your ability to ask questions so that you give it all the correct, like you have to think through everything for it to
Yeah.
produce a
Yeah.
product that actually can give you the results that you want.
For sure. So I've got a question following that.
Hmm.
I've been really interested. So one of the things that we're trying to do at our media is we're putting together these workshops to host with students at community colleges. And the goal of the workshops is to basically expose students to some applications of AI, give them interactive exercises so they can learn exactly how to do what we're talking about, which is prompt crafting, learning how to ask
Yeah.
questions, refine the searches, things like that. There's this tension, and you were speaking to it, there's a tension between, on one hand, if students are getting really, really good at using AI early in their academic careers, there's a big risk of them using it to cheat. And there's also that risk of them not developing those critical thinking skills. Like you were talking about your experience with your high school teacher. It's funny, I actually had the exact same one. My English teacher's name was Miss Mosley, and she would also give
Mm,
us like 40 minutes to write a 5-page essay, and to this day, all of these years later, I credit her with being the reason that I'm a good writer and a good thinker. And so the concern is, on one hand, as young people are getting hip to using those, they're going to be using it to cheat and they may not be using their brains as much as they should. On the flip side, though, those are skills that people need. When you enter the workforce, you need to know how to
hmm
use an AI, how to train an AI agent, etc. So, I mean, I guess just how do you feel about that tension? Because I think that's been a big concern of mine. It's like one, it raises these questions, one, when do we introduce AI into a learner's
Yeah,
journey? Two, how do we create those parameters so that you've got that critical thinking being maintained,
yeah.
but then on the flip side, I don't know, it's a tough question, but I'm curious about your thoughts.
No, this is a good question. This is a really, really good question. Um, there's there's multiple ways to think about this. The two that I can think of is thank you, bro. Okay, so the two, yeah, yeah. So the two that I can think of is number one,
Hmm.
you raise them without any. So like me, for example, right? Until like college, pretty much what didn't exist. I developed critical thinking through sheer hard work, and boom, now we get there.
Hmm.
And then the other way is I could have grew up with it. So what I started doing now is like I have reading assignments for class, right?
Hmm.
I have questions about certain topics, right? And I don't want to go look through Google and this and that. I just ask ChatGPT, right? Tell
Yeah.
me more about the 1817 Yale report. That was a question that I
Hmm.
had, right? It was this big document in higher
Hmm.
education, whatever. But I also used it. I was like, okay, take this entire passage, summarize it for me. It summarized it. Now I'm talking to the text through ChatGPT. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Instead of like
Yeah.
annotating and writing notes on the side, like I have the entire book right here on one thingy. I have my AI notes on the other thing, and I'm asking questions as I'm reading, and that's
Hmm.
really helpful. So it's like imagine I
Hmm.
had that as I was developing critical thinking, and I could ask more questions
Yeah.
quicker,
Wow.
get
So
answers quick. You
that's a
know,
good point. Yeah, is that
like I could
it's not
learn
just that
more.
it could limit the ability to grow in critical thinking abilities, but in some ways it kind of opens up new opportunities. That's a really good point. I honestly hadn't thought about that side of things.
It's
Yeah.
just it all depends on how you use it. You know, like if you have
Mm.
as a user, I need to have integrity,
Hmm.
right? I could cheat on everything if I want to. It's a
Yeah.
real like a choice you have to make. But at the end of it, you know, me for my specific career field, I was reading in the textbook that it's not a reactive field,
Hmm.
or we can't be reactive personnel in this field because we deal with human lives,
Mm.
right? And so if a student comes to me with a certain problem, I need to be able to have theories. I need to be able to have models of helping to actually help this person in a real and effective way.
Yeah.
So I can't use AI to do that. If I don't,
Mm.
actually understand these concepts and theories and
Hmm.
models and research in my actual mind without
Hmm.
AI, then it's like I can't be as effective in my job, and that
Yeah.
limits what I can do. So I think at the end of the day, that's why I use AI the way I do, and
Mm.
we
Mm.
that's kind of how I become an ethical user, and that's what students need to realize is you
Yeah.
won't be as good in your job in your profession. You won't have as good of a quality of life if you depend on AI and don't actually develop your mind because when you don't have it right, like let's say I don't have my phone, can I just survive? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Can I live?
Hmm.
Will I be happy? Can I still figure things out? Can I still like I try to tell my students, look, I'm not using AI because I can't do this thing. I can write a phenomenal A+ paper without AI,
Hmm.
right? Because I can do that, it makes it easier for me to use it because I know exactly what I'm trying to create. You don't even have a standard for what you're looking for it to do. You can't tell
Exactly.
AI that it's wrong because it's wrong
Yeah.
a lot. It'll hallucinate. It'll give you an answer
Hmm.
that's not fully correct. You can't
Hmm.
discern that because you haven't developed your mind.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Mm.
that was a really
I
long-winded answer. That's really my
No, no,
answer
no,
though.
but that was so juicy though. I loved it. Um, I am so glad that you brought it to the context of like the actual education space because that's kind of where I want to take it next. In these last few minutes that
Mm,
we have, I would love if you could share some thoughts around because you work for the Office of the President, you were steeped in the education space, so you
Yeah.
and you're getting to see it both from your undergrad students, you're working closely with members of faculty and admin, I'm sure. So those questions you were saying of coming up, you're saying as an educator, I need to be able to answer these questions. If a student comes to me with this issue about AI or this issue's coming up, are you seeing those issues start to come up? You know, like on your campus, what is the relationship between the students, the faculty, and then these AI tools? And what do you think, do you see disconnects? Because one thing I'll share for context is when I was finishing my undergrad at UC Santa Barbara, I did a little independent research project that was just basically conducting a bunch of interviews with faculty and students about their use of ChatGPT. And I was often finding that the things that students were telling me they were using it for were so different than what the faculty were reacting to. So I'm curious, do you see any of those kinds of disconnects in your world on your campus? And if
Yeah.
so, how are you guys responding to them?
It's a big question. I'll start off with saying I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
can't. I'm not that connected to all the students, but for my students,
Yeah.
and admin definitely uses AI to help get the work done.
Hmm.
Student affairs professionals, just higher education professionals have a lot to do all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from a efficiency standpoint, I think you should definitely use it. You know,
Hmm.
now, from a student perspective, the experiences that I have was actually, let me start with the faculty. There's in almost every policy from faculty, there's like an AI policy in their syllabus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that always says, to cite it,
Hmm.
right? To cite when you use it. You can use it for ideation sessions, but just whenever you do use it, just claim that that you have used it, and this is with the help of AI, and that you're not using it to submit your whole paper, but the ideas you might develop from it. If you used it for grammar, like that's fine.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think I don't. Students will ask me things like, "Hey, I got to use this to respond for an email." You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's not always. I think students probably use it more than faculty. Students probably use it more than
Wow.
staff, but I
Hmm.
don't think that it's always all for class. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I know
Hmm.
students who have businesses where they use AI, right? And so it's
Yeah.
like I think some maybe even I forget like how much students do outside of just class,
Hmm.
and they might be talking to it for advice because they
That's
might not have
true.
other people in their life. They might not feel comfortable to go to counseling. Like
Hmm.
like they have AI chatbots on Snapchat. They have it on Facebook, Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not
Yeah.
always ChatGPT. So it's like
Yeah.
students aren't just interacting with AI through education. It's a big part of their life in the biggest areas of their life. You feel
Hmm.
me? So
Hmm.
I don't I want to definitely make the problem as big as it is because
Yeah.
the algorithm is made by AI. Everybody knows about the algorithm. They make jokes about the algorithm, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think students know more about AI than probably a lot of the people that are making even the policy about it. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know how cracked down usage of it really is because it's so hard to tell. Sometimes
Mm.
it's really hard to tell. So, do you stop a student and ask them, "Hey, I think you're using AI." Like how do you really ask a student, and how do you catch
Mm.
a student? I don't know what
Yeah.
that policy looks like. I mean, maybe sure, like maybe a student never shows up to class, and I don't really. It gets tricky.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's my answer.
Mm. No, that's great. I mean, I think my biggest takeaway from that is it sounds like there need to be better mechanisms for faculty and admin to understand what the students are thinking and feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
All right.
Cool.
Well, we're coming up on time, so I'm gonna have to hop, but
Yeah, no
I'm
worries.
so glad we had this conversation. This was
I'm
great.
glad. I'm glad you reached out. Uh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna try. I'm starting to put the bones of a new page on our website where I'm posting just little like interviews, stuff that we've done. So this might end up there, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
But yeah, great. Yeah, beyond that,
Check mark. You have
definitely if
my
you have
consent.
any, okay, great. Yeah. Definitely let me know if you've got any other like thoughts, questions. If you ever just want to like shoot the shit about AI or education or any of that kind of stuff, I'm always game for that. So let me know.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
for
Thank you. I
now,
appreciate you.
for sure, I'm glad we got to connect. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. You as well. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.